There's a good chance that you clicked the link simply because you were trying to figure out which game is worth your money. So what I've done is created a video to compile both of them and review so I can put them apple to apples for you so you can figure out what game you would choose if you had to pick or had the funds to purchase either or. Let's just hop into which one, Grim Dawn or Last Epoch. What's worth it for you? Let's get into it. Now, Grim Dawn recently made its debut on the Xbox around 10 to 15 days ago at this point. So on December 10th, Grim Dawn was available for Xbox, which was really cool as this game isn't a brand new game and released probably 4 or 5 years ago. So what makes this game such a good game, you might ask? A lot of it has to do with the way your characters are built, the multi-class aspect of it, and the devotion skill tree that allows you to kind of spec into different constellations to give your character some mad crazy effects as you go through mobbing and beating down enemies. This game looks great, plays pretty smooth, but does have its little hints here and there. The game has quite a dark story going on through void rifts and trying to seek and find the souls of the lost, as to say, as in this mission I am looking for a friend who was sucked into the void. In most games, you know, you have multiple builds that you can shoot for. I've created one of the laziest builds I could possibly find. One where all I do is rely on a skill called Savagery and another skill called Mogdrogan's Pact. What these do is allow me to deal quite a bit of damage and scale up as long as the skill is active. It is a constant use of the ability, something like you'd see in Path of Exile when there's a channeling skill that can stay active at all times. This skill is really awesome because it just allows me to kind of go ham, and I really don't have to worry about a lot because of the lifesteal that I get. Now, let's talk about Last Epoch for just a second. Last Epoch actually has another intuitive and quite nice skill set system that anybody can appreciate and understand as they go. This game does a pretty good job of detailing and explaining exactly how things go whenever you're speccing into points and what those points will probably do for your character by the end of the game. Now, one thing I will say about Last Epoch is it isn't as smooth when it comes to your controls. I did find myself getting stuck on walls a lot more often in this game than what I'd seen in others. I still found yet again that the game did offer a lot of value. It looked great, it played pretty smooth as compared, and the skills and abilities did stack very well. I actually had a lot of fun looking around builds and just doing different things to where you would auto cast certain abilities based on a 2-second, 3-second cooldown, or when the skill hit an enemy, this or that would happen. I found that this game had a lot of value in little things like that. Another thing that was really cool is just to be able to kind of jump through time. The time rifts in this game made a really cool impact and effect on the game. It just kind of made you feel a little more immersive. It was very interesting, made me want to continue to play. Now, one thing I will say about both of these games, whether you're playing Grim Dawn or you're looking to play Last Epoch, they're both a lot of fun. There's a lot of variety in them. Of course, they look completely different when you check them out. So Last Epoch kind of works on your keys of Q, W, E, R, whereas Grim Dawn probably more traditional of the 1, 2, 3, 4 hotkey and skill bar setup, something you see in Diablo. Now, what I will say is Last Epoch has great controller support. It feels real smooth. Everything maps out just fine. Whereas this game, it was a little bit different using the controller on it. Everything still worked. However, it was just a little bit different. Now, if you're wondering, hey man, what does in-game look like? What can I do? What do I spend my time on when I'm playing these games? As we ran missions in Grim Dawn for the in-game type of content, the DLC Forgotten Gods had dropped. You could see that there were chunks and shards that we were supposed to go through, and we had to fill a bar up, and that was how you knew your progression, which is nice, and I really appreciated it. But there would be times where that bar wouldn't work, and the timer was not there. Like, it just, things didn't work right. You know, it wasn't there. And it was hard to understand, like, if there was a time limit, what the goal was. Was there better rewards for going faster? Was there a better reward for completing the further in as far as the shards went? And I couldn't figure that out. It would always be three shards for each chunk. So I ran 3 shards, I'd fight a boss, it'd be a new chunk. I'd run 3 shards, I'd fight a boss, it'd be another chunk. And what didn't make sense was the timer would run out and I would still be able to stay in there running multiple shards, and it's like there wasn't an actual benefit to the timer. It didn't really give me a key. Now, one thing I will say that really stood out in this is that each time, the longer you stayed in, the more modifiers stuck onto the enemy. So they either had increased health, attack damage, or other bonuses like that that did make it get more difficult, which did create the replay value there. But without a clear understanding and a clear indication of what was going on with the timer, the chunks, and the shards, it was kind of just, you know, pointless. Why not just let you run the rifts such as you would in Diablo, which did a great job, in my opinion, with that, which is just very similar to it. But why not just play Diablo on that one? Now, that's really the only negative thing I could really say about this. It was still really rewarding to run through, you know, fight enemies. Crashing mobs is always a bonus in these games. In my opinion, Last Epoch's endgame was a little easier to understand, as you would go into the monolith and you would be able to look at these different areas and choose the different directions you'd want to go. And as you did each one of these little islands or rifts in time, you would be given some fate and echo coins, basically. And the more you got, the more the reward was, the harder the difficulty is on each one. Now, this seemed to feel a lot faster, and it felt like I was doing more, so it was a little more rewarding, as spending time in here didn't feel like, you know, dry. It didn't feel like boring. I knew what I was working towards. I knew I had to get in on the map, go through it, not die. That makes a world of difference, because once you die, the echo rewards are non-existent, and you might as well try to find a different path to go down, because you'd just be wasting your time. So anyway, but like, it just felt like, you know, I'd go to it. I knew what my modifiers were. I knew what was going on. I knew the purpose of that one. By the end of it, I had to kill a boss or kill these waves of enemies or whatever the case may be, get the points, and move on to the next. And after each time you did the echo, you actually got a reward. It wasn't always a great reward, but you always got a reward, and then you'd be able to jump into the next one. And as you can see, they're scaled based on my current level. So I'm about level 61, and everything was running in that area, that range, and the difficulty wasn't too much. If you played smart, you'd survive. I really liked the way Last Epoch did their in-game portion of it a little bit more than what I liked in Grim Dawn. Grim Dawn seemed a bit buggy. Now, the big piece, what you're wondering, hey, where should I spend my money? Should I be buying Grim Dawn? Should I be purchasing Last Epoch? Or what? I don't know what to do. Well, that's what I'm hoping that I can help explain for you. So, Last Epoch, in my opinion, even though it's in its beta stage and it's constantly getting upgrades and it's constantly getting patched to help the game throughout production, I would say is a better game in most cases. The builds are more fun. There's more, I would say, content. Now, don't get me wrong. This game has its flaws. It's very slow to start, and sometimes it just doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere in the story. Like, things weren't explained well, or I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just supposed to go here and destroy some enemies, and then I go back, and then I go to another place and destroy some enemies, and this, that, and the other. But that doesn't make it bad. That doesn't make it great. But what I will say is there's just little mechanics within this game that just make it better. Now, as you can see, the loot drop and having to pick up loot by clicking it, there is no automatic like loot filter that you can use for things that are like craftables. If craftables were automatically picked up and automatically put into your craft book pack, that would be nice. This game doesn't do that, so maybe that's something they can put in a future patch. What I will say is Grim Dawn does have more flexibility in play styles and play types. Being able to choose multiple classes that help gauge and play in a different way is phenomenal in my opinion, and I wish more games really offered that type of play style. The boss battles always looked great. Sometimes they were really easy, but overall they looked great, they felt great, and there was always a lot of action going on within these battles. Some to the point where I thought I was gonna die, to be completely honest. But I'm not playing this game on the hardest difficulty, and I'm still having a blast learning it and playing through it. Grim Dawn is a great buy if you already had Last Epoch. Don't get me wrong. A lot of fun, looks good, class viability is there. It's an in-depth game. The story starts to get really gripping by the end of it. So you know you're going to have a lot of fun in the lore and understanding and just smashing mobs as you go. So all in all, you've heard what I like and what I don't like about both games, Last Epoch or Grim Dawn. And Last Epoch is honestly the direction that I would go. But it's for one big reason that I was really excited. I watched that game get a huge update, and within 3 days, developers had already found opportunities to patch and release those patches to fix some of the problems from the update. It's not very often that you see such a fast turnaround in improvements on a game. Sometimes those take weeks before they actually get implemented and a player can actually appreciate or see. So the developer team, the publisher team, the people who are behind Last Epoch, in my opinion, are going to work to get it done. Now, don't get me wrong, Grim Dawn's team is still amazing, pushing a game that was 4 to 5 years old onto Xbox when they didn't have to, just to make sure the player base got what they were wanting and they seen the opportunity, is still phenomenal. But Last Epoch has my right in the books, guys, so you tell me, which one would you choose?